All right, so UFC 229 is starting to get booked up, man. The fighters are getting out there. We talked about Michelle Waterson. They also put on the workhorse OSP. That guy always goes out there and he's a shocker. He's a shocker, but I'll tell you this. He always goes out there and puts on a very shocking performance. You know, he may not be your favorite fighter, but with those Von Flus, he straight armbarred a guy in his last fight. He'll knock you out with a head kick. He's just become that guy. He's become that guy in such a crappy division. He's become the guy. Anyways, UFC is getting booked up. UFC 229 is getting booked up. The fights are getting lined up. It's starting to look like a pretty good card. People are getting excited about it. People are kind of talking about it. But the one thing that's jumping out to me in the media right now is that they're saying that this fight card is going to do 2 million pay-per-view buys. That's a damn lie. If I've ever heard one lie, then that's the one lie. I doubt that it'll do 2 million pay-per-view buys. That's 2 million. They're saying that it's going to do half the amount that Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor did. In the time right now, in the UFC right now, you know, the prices have gone up. And the fan base has almost consolidated. Right? In the absence of Conor, in the absence of Rousey, in the absence of a big deal star, the Brocks, the John Jones, the Chuck Liddells, the GSPs, in the absence of all of these guys, a lot of the casual fans have dropped off. There used to be a time that I could hear randomly, you know, maybe going home on the train or at work or getting lunch, I would hear people talking about the UFC or talking about fights. Or I would be maybe, you know, after work, I'd be having drinks with friends or something like that. And I would see UFC on the TV at a bar. I don't see that and I don't feel that energy and I don't hear that anymore. I really don't. I don't hear it anymore. There used to be a buzz about the UFC and about MMA generally. I just feel like the fan base has consolidated. The people who are fans have become diehard fans. And we've gotten some great fights, to be honest, in the wake of the big stars. We've gotten great fights, but I think the UFC is just going through a wave right now. They're just going through a cycle. Typical, I would say typical business cycle, but this is sort of dragged on a little bit longer than you would typically see in a business cycle, but they're just going through a bit of a down period. You know, there's ups and there's downs in business and they're going through a bit of a down period. And I think Conor versus Khabib might start them back on the way up, but Conor's been gone too long and he's been doing too much stupid shit. And all of the dumb things that he's been doing, they're using that to promote Conor versus Khabib. They're using all of this stupid stuff that Conor has done to promote the fight. And I personally think that they need to rejuvenate and use some new material to promote the fight. They're saying they're not going to do a press conference. They should do a press conference because nobody actually knows Khabib like that. Nobody knows how he's going to operate against a Conor McGregor. You know, there's only one person that was able to really, you know, there was only really two people that were able to dig back at Conor McGregor. That was Floyd Mayweather. You know, Floyd, what'd he say? He said, we gonna get off in that ass. We gonna get in that ass. That's what Floyd said, and that's exactly what he did. And then also Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz just kind of kept it real and hit him with a couple of MFs and, you know, he just kept it real, and that was a way that kind of shut down Conor McGregor. But what does Khabib have? I don't know. I think that Khabib is actually getting a deal right now. He's getting a pretty good deal. He's able to fight Conor McGregor without a press tour, and this is Conor's comeback fight. Like, you know, this is his fight back into getting the strap. You know, he's coming out as the contender. So it's going to be Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. So Conor's the contender. This is his comeback fight after 2 or however many years he's been gone. And also, you know, it's just odd. It's just, you know, His comeback to MMA fight, and also coming back to the belt fight, and also just going back to fighting somebody who's an actual threat, actual fighter, right? Because the Nate Diaz fights, it's tough to really consider those real fights because Nate Diaz was coming off the couch. And everybody knows Nate Diaz really wasn't in the UFC like that. He wasn't into MMA like that. He's that guy. He's out there in jeans and boots, you know? He's out there in jeans and boots. MMA is not his life necessarily. He has a whole nother, you know, the weed and the triathlons and the volunteering. All of that is great, but MMA wasn't his thing. It's not Nate Diaz's thing. He happens to be good at it, and that's what it is. And he's always down for a scrap, and that's what it is. But he hadn't really fought a contender. Eddie Alvarez was the last contender that he fought, but before that, it just kind of seemed odd. So it's good to see Conor McGregor come back, but I just don't think it's going to pull 2 million pay-per-view buys. The price has gone up. The fan base has dropped off a bit. I don't even buy pay-per-views the way that I used to. I really don't. I don't buy pay-per-views the way that I used to. You know, and then there's also the fact that you can watch it for free online. If you're savvy, if you're even half savvy, then you can find it online streaming for free. If you have half a brain cell, then you can find it streaming online for free. So the only thing that would make you want to pay for it is the fact that you like the fighters and you want to support the fighters. Or you like the UFC and you want to support the UFC. Either way. But now that people know that the money that you're spending on the pay-per-view, it doesn't really go to the fighters for real, then it gets tough to start to spend money on the UFC when you just, you know, the fighters are getting effed over the way that they are. It's just strange. It really is. What I'll say is I don't see this thing going 2 million pay-per-view buys. I see it going maybe about 1.5 at the most. 1 or 1.5 at the most. If it goes 2 million pay-per-view buys, I was going to say I'd do a live stream, like a video live stream if it goes 2 million pay-per-view buys, but I don't even have enough subscribers to go video live stream. I'm not sure, but it's just, I can't see it happening. I can't see it happening. You know, let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you guys are feeling a buzz about this fight that I'm not feeling, hey, let me know. Let me know what city you're in. Let me know how many, what the population count is, because those are the people buying it. But here in the ATL, nothing's moving. Nothing is moving. It's radio silence. And here on the internet, nothing's moving. I don't see it happening. I'm not seeing this fight on. I'm just not hearing the buzz about it. I know ESPN talked about it, but the thing is, ESPN is going to talk about everything MMA and UFC right now because they're getting the deal. So they need to pre-promote. They need to pre-promote the UFC. I don't know what to say about it. I'm excited for the fight card, though. I think it's building up to be a pretty good fight card. Not quite the fight card that so 229 is coming after 228, right? I feel like 228 is way more stacked than 229. I feel like it is way more stacked of a card than 229 at the moment. I know there's only a few fights on there, a few fights that have been announced on there, but it's a good card. I just don't see it breaking 2 million. I really don't. Anyways, you never know with the Irish fans. There's so many Irish fans, and there's so many that, okay, all right. And apparently Khabib has so many fans, pay-per-view buying fans. I just don't see it. I don't see it like that. It's a great fight and a great card, but I think they're trying to gas it up to be, the biggest fight in UFC history. No, the biggest fight in UFC history was, everybody's going to say something different. I do think that it was Conor. I don't know, maybe Conor Aldo. Might not have been as big, but it was a big deal. Conor and Diaz. I don't know. Is this the biggest freaking UFC fight in history? No way. No way. No way. Ronda Rousey's first fight, the first women's fight in MMA might have been the first women's fight in UFC history might have been the biggest fight in UFC history. You know, or maybe even her, it's just, I don't know if this is it. I really don't. I think that when Conor McGregor fights Nate Diaz for the third time, if Nate Diaz can keep his, if he can keep it together, because we all know the guy he's got a screw loose. He literally has a freaking screw loose. If he can keep it together long enough to get the third fight, then I can see that being maybe the biggest fight in history, in UFC history. Maybe. They're 1-1. There's a grudge match there, 1-1. And Nate Diaz is upset because, hey, you took everything I worked for, motherfucker. I'm coming for your fucking, the whole thing. Nate Diaz has that whole thing going. So, I don't know. I just don't see this one being that big. When DC and Khabib Nurmagomedov were arguing about who has the bigger fight, I think that DC has the bigger fight with Brock Lesnar. I just don't see... Well, maybe Khabib has the bigger fight, but I don't see it doing 2 million pay-per-view buys. I guess I'll leave it at that. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section.